Well, hello and welcome to Rajat TV. You're watching India Fights Back with me, Rajat Kain. In this edition of the show, we'll discuss how government is leading from the front, with even Prime Minister urging to dispel any apprehensions causing hesitation to take the vaccine. Well, India started off its mass vaccination program on January 16, that is last week, Saturday. Already, the program is being termed as world's largest mass immunization program. While the mission has been off to a smooth start, few cases of adverse reaction have also been reported. Well, experts have called this a usual phenomenon. Whenever there's a new vaccine, there are cases of adverse reaction. And as far as the official authoritative information goes, the cases of adverse reaction are all non-serious and they have been attended by, or to say, tracked by the authorities. So how important is it to address any rumor or misinformation about the vaccine? To discuss further on this very important issue, we joined with a panel of three guests. Dr. Raman R. Gangakhedkar, he is Dr. C.G. Pant, National Chair, ICMR. So many thanks for joining us, Dr. Gangakhedkar. Dr. K.K. Gupta, Professor of Medicine and Nodal Officer, COVID-19 from Varanasi, and Dr. Sujeet, Raina, Associate Professor, RPGMC, Tanda from Himachal. Many thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Let me start with you, Professor Raina. Dr. Raina, I beg your pardon. You have received a vaccine now. For the benefit of our viewers, could you apprise us your experience of having a vaccine? Let me start with that and then we'll open the stage for other opinions about the vaccine, vaccination and any adverse reaction. Dr. Raina.
Thanks, Mr. Rajat, for allowing me to share my experiences.
Thank you, sir.
After receiving this vaccine. Before I share a little bit of my experiences, let me go a little bit into this COVID-19 disease. Well, the disease is new, barring few conjectural predictions. Nobody had predicted such kind of an disease with the enormous kind of devastating effect on the humanity, which maybe over a period of 2-3 months led to a pandemic state. We, as a clinician, we had never experienced such kind of a disease. And in last 10 months, we have tremendous experience of handling these patients, managing these patients, and we have experienced how the disease has evolved over a period of time and how the treatments have also evolved over a period of time. No protocols were available initially. And subsequently, as the time passed, we became a little bit wiser as much as once some evidence-based medicine, evidence-based drugs started coming in. Similarly, the armamentarium of this fighting this disease, one new thing which has come now to help us in combating the disease is the vaccine. And I had no hesitation of going for the jab as much as early as it was available. So around 30 hours have passed. I received it at 10 a.m. yesterday, and 30 hours have passed since then. And I did not, with the grace of God, experience any minor or any major adverse event so far, barring a little pain in my maybe left deltoid region where I received the vaccine. I don't have any issue so far with the vaccine.
Right, Dr. Raina. Many thanks for sharing your experience about your vaccination. Dr. Gupta, you are the nodal officer of COVID-19 in Varanasi. Sir, let me just please could you apprise us about, say, the management of the entire exercise in your area, in your jurisdiction? How are you going about vaccinating people, and what are the steps you have taken so as to dispel any information that is detrimental towards having vaccination, sir?
Well, let me tell you, to begin with, we have the COVID-19 infections which are coming from the 9 districts of the neighboring districts of this Varanasi. And ours was level 3. And we had all the serious patients which are coming to our hospital, and we were managing all together with the whole teamwork. And we succeed to save the patients, and so much so to say that we could save a person having the age of 104 years. Babaji was who survived this COVID-19 infection, pneumonia, and finally he was discharged. So this was one of the highlights of our achievements at our center. Well, the vaccination program, which started on 16th, as usual, anything which comes new, there is a shyness of towards going towards that. And prior to the start of this vaccination program, there was lots of media, both the electronic or the print media. There was lots of things were being discussed. But at our center, what we did when we started talking about the goodness of that vaccine, how it is going to help us, because we do not have any treatment which we can say that this is the foolproof treatment for the COVID-19 pneumonia. So that is the boon for us, that we have an indigenous vaccine which will definitely going to help us in our setup, having the same population group where we are living. So it is not a foreign vaccine. So furthermore, as I said, there was a vaccine shyness at our place initially, and the people who are coming, we were discussing about them. Then we took the vaccine together, and we said that there is nothing like that as what you take as a Tetwek toxide, Tetwek injection after some injury. It is something like that, and you are not going to have any kind of a problem. And fortunately, at our center, day 1 on 16, we had only complained about the pain at the site or a mild giddiness for a person who was otherwise having some dehydration or something like that. He has not taken the food before coming to the vaccine center. So he was immediately taken care of within minutes, and nothing has happened. And today the vaccination is going on at our center, and nil any kind of an adverse reaction which we could expect here. So far, nothing has been reported since morning.
Right. Many thanks, Dr. Gupta. I'll come back to you and explore the dimension of this discussion. Dr. Raman, Gangakhedkar, sir, you have been following the trajectory of COVID-19 in India and the world, of course, just like two other experts we have on the show. Sir, we have seen the mass vaccination that started off last week. I know it's still early days. What can you make out of the turnout? There have been concerns amongst the authorities of the hesitation, and even today Prime Minister addressed and interacted with the beneficiaries and the ones who had received the vaccination, and he also urged about dispelling any misinformation. Sir, Dr. Gangakhedkar?
Yeah, I think it is natural, when there is a new vaccine and you tend to hear all kinds of negative stories about a vaccine without knowing that the denominator, those who are having good experience, is perhaps not told. The result is you tend to get scared, and when that starts happening, the peer pressure is towards not taking it rather than taking it. And then one looks at others in the vicinity, those who are your friends, those who you actually respect as a professional, and then decide, and then when you are likely to respect your seniors whom you treat as idols, you find that hesitancy is reduced to a larger extent. I think it's only a sign of a new intervention that has come in. Perhaps we should address it with more of accurate information that we can provide to people to make an informed choice whether they should take the vaccine or continue to remain vulnerable to acquiring COVID as healthcare workers or frontline workers, because their exposure is going to be far higher compared to the others in the population.
Right, absolutely. That is extremely well summarized. Their exposure would be much higher. Dr. Raina, if I may ask you, you yourself are medical practitioners, in terms of the vaccination, what are the usual adverse reaction we have seen, historically speaking as well, not just about the COVID-19 vaccination, because as I said, let's have a caveat, it's still early days. We're just 6 days into the mass vaccination drive. But in terms of the adverse reaction, what are the usual things one may say, one may see historically when I've seen? Dr. Raina.
Worldwide, vaccination programs are happening everywhere. And we have experience from the national immunization program in pediatric age group, as well as some vaccination programs in adults also. But minor adverse events are known to happen, like pain at the site, some swelling there can happen. One may get a little bit of fever also, may not be,
Okay.
and they are self-limiting things, myalgias, some arthralgias, maybe headache-like things. Some may feel a little bit giddiness or maybe nauseating feeling or maybe a sense of warmth, etc. So they are all minor events which can happen. Very rarely, what they say, maybe 1 in million patients may experience anaphylaxis. That's our experience from other vaccination programs. 1 in 1 million may experience an episode of anaphylaxis. That is adverse event which one may take a little seriously from this. So far, from our own experience, from if I talk about COVID from this my place, whatever we have seen, it is fever, which is probably is the common adverse event which we are
Okay.
experiencing, and it is self-limiting. Some are experiencing myalgias, headache, and arthralgias. That is it, and maybe a couple of patients may have nausea or vomiting. So all are very minor adverse events.
That's important. Minor adverse reaction are fairly common. Dr. Gupta, broadly speaking about this vaccination program, is it to do something also historically? Whenever we have had the mass vaccination program or immunology program, the target groups or the beneficiary has been by and large children. But here we have the grown-up adults. So are they more prone or receptive towards, sometimes, as we say, like nowadays, like we also have social media, which wasn't there in the case when we used to have the earlier mass vaccination program. So has that scenario added to the misinformation?
Yeah, definitely. I would agree that this kind of media and social sites, without having the technical knowledge, without having they gossip around the vaccine as such, and not having the true knowledge of the what is vaccine, how it is manufactured, and what are the ingredients in that. As Dr. Raina said, that very rarely somebody may have the anaphylaxis reaction.
Right.
Yeah, it do happen with the ingredients which are there, with sometimes any kind of an injection. Suppose you have the penicillin reactivity. It is not necessary every time you have the penicillin which is causing. It is the ingredient of that penicillin vial which is there as a preservative or whatever. That causes some kind of a reaction in the body. So as such, if you say that the penicillin is reacting or the vaccine here in this case is reacting, is largely uncalled for. So what I say that the unscientific dissipation of knowledge is uncalled for, and it should be discouraged altogether. So this is what I say. And one more thing, it would have been much better as and it is good that our medical fraternity is being called for first vaccination program. That's a right choice and right direction.
Okay.
But at the same time, it would have been a social factor also, that if would have invited some named people who are known in society, so that they could have become more messengers for the society at large. The same social media would have focused them. So this would have been much better. So today, what we are doing as a senior consultants over here, that we are trying to dissipate the same knowledge. The patients, the attendants who are coming with us, we are telling them, you get this vaccination program. What we do in our setup, that we have a counseling program for the patient attendants also. There we also counsel them about this vaccination. So whenever they have their turn, they must receive it. So this is another issue what we are dealing from the very beginning. Ever since we got to know about that the vaccination is going to come in India.
Well, absolutely, Dr. Gupta. We really appreciate the kind of steps you're taking so as to dispel any rumors. Along with that, you're carrying on this mass vaccination program, which in itself has its own challenges. Really wish you well about it. And clearly, as I said, we really appreciate whatever you're doing in terms of like dispelling any misinformation. Dr. Gangakhedkar, like this is like a very specific query, and I really want to ask you. I mean, pick your thoughts about it. Earlier in the week, we read Bharat Biotech advising a certain group of people with past immune history not to go for their vaccine. I mean, do you think that this information should be further, analyzed, or for that matter, this should be there in public domain so that we have clear-cut target group? Okay, fine. A particular person should not be having this vaccine, and B particular person should not worry about having this vaccine. Is it so, sir?
Yeah. People who may have to exercise a caution in accepting the vaccine, whether they should go ahead and take it, should always be known to everybody, including the doctor. But what is also essential for us to understand is the entire process that is being discussed in the media is actually leading to so defensive actions that there could be a mention that if you have history of allergy. Now, history of allergy is not something which is uncommon. People would say, why? I have, let's say, some atopic dermatitis, something like eczema. Now, why should I take it? The reality of life is, I think we don't need to be defensive. We need to look at it a little more objectively. Perhaps the contraindications are so large that you might miss out on a large population just because they feel they fall in that particular group. So it is essential for us to be prudent in doing that. I'll give you one example. One of the things which is most important if you want to control emergence of variants, the newer variants which can be transmitted in the community, is to ensure a susceptible population where the virus could linger in the body for a longer period of time, and that's people with deficiency. And if I say that I should not provide the vaccine to people who may be HIV infected, despite the fact that that's a killed vaccine, that the virus there is inactivated virus, and I suddenly become so defensive just because of the media hype that they have received. And that results into a chaos, because basically these people will not come forward to take vaccine, but they should actually be the most protected.
Right, absolutely. And it's also, we ask our viewers to please listen to experts, listen to these experts, listen to experts all over in the media. Don't fall to any rumors. Just last few minutes, I have to squeeze in Dr. Sujeet, Raina. I mean, if you have to advise, like general public, what would you say about like dispelling misinformation about the vaccine? Just a small advice to the viewers.
Well, the advice for the general public that they should not hesitate in accepting the vaccine. And one more advice will be for all the doctors in future, because as I see it from the prism of a clinician also, as a clinician, just to have our own experience regarding the later adverse events also, in history, we should now include the history of COVID vaccination, whether the patient has or the person who has come with any kind of illness to us, whether he has received COVID vaccine or not. Because that will make us a little more prudent of adverse events beyond those which we already know.
Right. Many thanks, Dr. Sujeet, Raina. Many thanks, Dr. Gupta, for joining us all the way from Varanasi. We would have asked more questions, but we are slightly short in time. And many thanks, Dr. Raman Khedkar. Pleasure to have you on India Fights Back. So clearly, this is what our experts say. Do not fall to rumor, and also always listen to experts. And of course, make a right choice. And right now, it's a choice between having a vaccine or having a threat of infection. You are the better judge to choose what is right for you. Well, many thanks for watching this edition of India Fights Back. But before we leave, a small appeal to all our viewers. Please keep following COVID appropriate behavior, keep wearing a mask, keep washing your hands, and do not forget to maintain social distancing. These are few steps that can help us in defeating this pandemic. Well, many thanks for watching RSTV. Thanks and goodbye.